There is this invisible force that quietly dictates your entire financial future. It doesn't loudly announce itself, it doesn't send you push notifications or reminders, it simply ticks away second by second, year by year. And that force is time. Today we're taking a serious, unfiltered look at a stark reality. We're going to examine exactly what happens when we ignore time and the incredibly heavy price we end up paying for inaction. To be clear, this isn't about getting rich quick, it is a deep dive into the actual mechanics of wealth and how the simple passage of time is either actively building your freedom or quietly guaranteeing your continuous labor.
So, let's picture two 25-year-olds. They start their careers at the exact same time, earning pretty average, comparable salaries. They both work hard, and they both have these visions of a secure, comfortable future. But fast forward 15 years to age 40, and their realities are completely different. One of them has built this solid foundation of investments, and they're genuinely enjoying financial freedom and having real options in life. And the other? Well, they're still entirely dependent on that next salary credit just to survive to the end of the month.
So, what exactly happened here? It's a profound mystery when you think about it. If it wasn't just blind luck, if it wasn't a difference in pure intelligence, and if it wasn't some massive gap in their starting salaries, why did their paths diverge so drastically over those 15 years? Why does one have complete peace of mind, while the other is just trapped in a constant cycle of financial pressure?
Let's break this down, starting with Section 1, Decisions in Your 20s.
The split between those two lives actually begins with incredibly small, seemingly insignificant choices made really early on. When you're in your 20s, concepts like retirement, or honestly, even just turning 40, feel impossibly far away. You feel like you have an unlimited, endless supply of time, and because of that illusion, the single most common phrase young professionals tell themselves is simply, I'll start later, right? I'll start saving next year. I'll actually learn about investing after I get that next promotion. I'll figure the whole money thing out when I'm a bit older and more settled.
But here's the catch. That illusion of endless time shatters incredibly quickly. You get your first salary at 25. Then, before you even realize it, you hit 30 and you're facing new life milestones. By 35, your responsibilities have absolutely multiplied. Maybe it's a family, higher rent, or EMIs. And then suddenly, 40 is knocking at the door, bringing a really harsh reality check. Because your future isn't built in one dramatic movie-like moment. It's quietly constructed through thousands of small, repetitive decisions made across every one of these milestones. Every single time you said later, you are actively shaping a far more difficult future.
Which brings us to our next crucial point, the silent danger of inflation.
You see, delaying your investments doesn't just put your wealth growth on pause, it actively destroys it. And the culprit is a seemingly tiny number, 6%. That's a standard average inflation rate. But inflation is a silent, invisible enemy. When you leave your money just sitting completely idle in a savings account, you might feel safe. You look at your bank app, the number isn't going down, so you feel secure. But underneath the surface, inflation is constantly and aggressively shrinking the actual purchasing power of that money.
To put that into perspective, if you apply the mathematical rule of 72 to a 6% inflation rate, the results are genuinely sobering. Something that costs 100 rupees today is expected to cost nearly double in just about 12 years. Think about the gravity of that. If your money isn't growing at a rate that beats inflation, your idle bank balance is effectively losing half its value over a single decade. Your future buying power is literally shrinking while you are just standing still.
And that brings us to a really stark truth. Not investing is also a financial decision. People so often think that by hoarding all their cash in a bank account and avoiding the markets entirely, they're being responsible and avoiding risk. But avoiding the market guarantees a totally different kind of risk. It's an active, dangerous choice that basically guarantees you will have to rely entirely on your own physical effort and active labor to generate income forever. Because the second you stop working, the money stops completely. Now let's flip the script and look at when money actually works for you. To transition away from that erosion of wealth and towards the acceleration of wealth, we need to look at the actual mechanics of compounding. This is how that second 25-year-old built their freedom. Step 1 is where we all start. You work for money. Every bit of savings comes from your own sweat. Step 2, you invest. And honestly, at first, wealth creation feels painfully slow. It feels like absolutely nothing is happening. But then you cross into Step 3. Your returns start generating their own returns. And finally, Step 4, the ultimate goal. The momentum takes over entirely, and your money is literally working harder than you are.
And this leads us to a fascinating crossover moment. This is the exact milestone you are waiting for. In those early years, your personal monthly contribution is doing all the heavy lifting. But eventually, a very specific day arrives. It's a crossover point where your investments actually earn more in a single year than you personally contributed from your salary. That is the exact day your wealth finally breaks free from the physical limits of your own labor.
But here's the reality check. This inflection point isn't built on magic. It's not about finding a secret multi-bagger stock overnight, and it's certainly not about taking reckless gambles. It is built entirely on unglamorous discipline, consistency, and a massive amount of patience. Compounding is a really quiet, boring process for years before it suddenly becomes spectacular. It rewards patience long, long before it rewards excitement.
So let's bring this all together and look at the ultimate cost of waiting.
Going back to our two 25-year-olds, the stark contrast between them at age 40 had nothing to do with their income or their intellect. The one who achieved financial freedom didn't find any secret shortcuts. They didn't achieve overnight riches. They just made consistent, relatively small investments. They just allowed time to do the heavy lifting for them. The biggest, most profound difference between the two was simply who started early and who kept waiting for a perfect time that, frankly, never came.
So, I want you to project yourself into the future for just a moment. Take a hard look at the small financial choices you're repeating every single month right now. Fast forward 10 or 15 years. Based purely on your current habits, ask yourself, one day, will your money still be waiting for you to physically clock in and work for it? Or will it finally start working for you? Your future self is completely at the mercy of the decisions you are making today.
And we'll leave it on this final, undeniable reality. In the entire history of finance, you will rarely, if ever, find a single person who says they regret starting their investments too early. But the world is filled with millions of people carrying the heavy, irreversible burden of realizing they waited too long. Time is the one single currency you can never, ever earn back. Do not let it slip away while you sit around waiting for later.